Wednesday and the Turquoise Dome. When the sun of Thursday rose like a newly bloomed bud and the sky turned uniformly turquoise, Bahram put on a victorious-colored garment and set off towards the Turquoise Dome, which was a short day, but a long story ahead. When night fell, it seemed as if the black tresses of the sky had fallen on the shoulders of the mountains and made the plain black as well. Then the lady of the mansion wanted to observe the tradition of hospitality, and set the table accordingly. Then she opened her lips to speak, "O king, whose sky is obedient to you. O master, whom the stars admire, I and women better than me do not deserve to be your servant. How can vinegar be sold in front of the fountain of syrup? But as it is the king's command, I begin my story like this. In Egypt, there was a cheerful man named Mahan. He was so attractive that he was as handsome as Joseph in Egypt. Mahan was very happy among his friends, and every day one of these friends invited him to their party. One day, a nobleman came and invited him to his garden. The garden was very beautiful and serene, and that party seemed 100 times more delightful next to his friends. Until nightfall, they enjoyed themselves in the garden, sometimes drinking wine and sometimes eating delicious fruits. At night, when the black brush of the sky drew on the white paper of the earth, friends with wine in hand and songs on their lips were in a joyful mood. The moonlight illuminated the garden as bright as day. When the Mahan's head became warm from drinking wine, he looked out into the garden in that delightful light and walked in the grass like a drunkard until he reached the palm grove. On the way, he saw a man coming towards him and greeted him. When the man got closer, Mahan realized that the stranger was his companion. Mahan asked him, "What are you doing here at this late hour?" The man replied, "I have returned from a distant journey to my homeland, and I really couldn't wait any longer to see you. I have earned a great profit from this trading journey that is incomparable to my previous trades. So I said to myself, I must see you as soon as possible. When I arrived late, the whole city was in silence and darkness, and when I learned that you had gone to a party in the garden I thought, let me come to you. Now, if you wish, we can return to the city, or we can hide half of our trading profits somewhere so we pay less in taxes." Mahan was happy to hear the news and both of them set off on the road like two deer. The man led the way and Mahan followed behind him. Several hours passed in this manner, and gradually Mahan sobered up and became alert, thinking to himself, "We have now traveled more than 4 leagues and have gone very far from our neighborhood. Although I am drunk, my companion, who is sober, knows the way, so why is he leading us on a long and winding path?" They continued on the road, Mahan walking more slowly and the man walking faster. They traveled until morning came and the birds started singing their morning songs. Then Mahan realized that there was no trace of his companion. So, he became confused with fear and fell asleep right there until noon when the sunlight warmed his head. He opened his eyes and looked around. He found no trace of the flower garden from last night. Instead, it was full of caves filled with snakes. Snakes that were larger than dragons. Although he could no longer bear to walk, he had no choice but to continue walking. Even though he found no sign of the right path, nor had the strength left in him. He went and went and went until the dark night replaced the bright day. He fell exhausted at the entrance of a cave on the ground. In that darkness, every plant at the cave entrance looked like a snake to Mahan. Mahan was so terrified that he was even afraid of his own shadow. At that moment, in the same place where it was like the abode of demons, the sound of 2 voices could be heard. One voice was a man's voice and the other was a woman's voice. The 2 of them were slowly walking, because of the heavy load on their backs. The man, seeing Mahan on the way, said to the woman, "You should stand farther away." Then he approached the Mahan and shouted, "Who are you, stranger?" Mahan replied, "I am Mahan." The other man said, "How did you reach this ruined place?" "This is the place of demons." Even a lion does not dare to come to this ruin. Mahan said, For sake of God, be kind to me, help me, for I have not come here willingly. This is the abode of demons and I am a human. Last night at this very moment, I was in peace and joy in a feast in the garden of paradise. A man came and said, I am your partner in property and trade, and he guided me from that paradise to this ruin, and now I am lost and the day has ended and the night has passed. Be kind to me for the sake of God, and show me the way I have lost so that I can escape from here. The man said, O handsome youth, indeed you have been saved from destruction, for that man was not your partner, but a desert demon, and his aim was to bring you to this trap to take your life. He led hundreds of people astray and killed them all. Tonight, this woman and I are your friends and we will take care of you. Increase your confidence, walk between us, and don't lag behind even a single step. Mahan set off between the two of them and never got far from them. You would say Mahan was writing line by line from the lesson they were teaching. The two of them did not speak until morning, they just walked. When the rooster's crow broke the silence of the night like the sound of a drum at dawn, suddenly the two disappeared and there was no trace of them. You would say the two had thrown Mahan into a cage without a key. So when the day came after the night and the ground brightened, in that valley Mahan only saw leopards on top of every mountain. Mahan could no longer move and there was no food to eat there to regain some strength. So he ate the roots and seeds of plants instead of bread in every corner. He wandered from mountain to mountain until the night of that day, with no strength or energy left. So he crawled into a pit to sleep for a while. Then suddenly, he heard the sound of a horse's hoof. He went towards the road and saw a man riding a horse, while holding the reins of another horse in his hand, pulling that other horse behind him. The horseman reached Mahan, and saw an old man crawling in the pit. He said, Who are you, and what are you doing here? If you tell me the secret of what you are doing here properly, I have nothing to do with you. Otherwise, I will cut your head off. Mahan was terrified and trembling as he said, O skilled horseman, please listen to my whole story. He then explained his helplessness and confusion to the horseman. When the horseman heard the legendary story, he was surprised and bit the back of his hand in astonishment. He said, One of them was a male giant and the other was a female giant who conspired to lead a person astray from the right path, throw him in a pit, and shed his blood. When they heard the call of the morning bird, they ran away. The female giant's name is Hylan and the male giant's name is Keela. They are truly evil. Thank God you escaped their trap. Now, everything else is in the past. Come behind me on this horse, and only whisper God's name in your heart. Mahan emerged from the valley and mounted his horse. He rode so fast that even the wind lagged behind him. As they passed through the mountains, a flat plain appeared on the horizon, as smooth as the palm of a hand. There, the sound of music, the melody of the lute and singing could be heard, and voices called out from all sides, inviting him to come towards them and drink a cup of wine. The entire desert was filled with giants instead of grass and flowers. Thousands of giants could be seen all over the plain. As they passed through the plain for a while, suddenly thousands of bright torches appeared in the distance, followed by several beings with strange and monstrous bodies, terrifying and fearsome. They were creatures with trunks and horns, resembling a combination of a cow and an elephant, with ugly faces, each holding a torch of fire in their hands, singing songs in their language, and spewing fire from their mouths. From those songs that they were singing, the Mahan's horses began to dance and fly. Mahan looked at the horse's legs to see why his horse had feathers instead of legs, but then he realized he was not riding a horse, but a dragon. This dragon had 4 legs, 2 wings, and surprisingly, 7 heads. The wicked dragon toyed with poor Mahan. The infernal-faced dragon stomped its feet on the ground, causing Mahan to twist like a rope, and pulled him in all directions, beating him up and down the mountains to exhaust him. At times, It would toss him up like a ball and then grab him by the leg with its mouth. The torment continued until morning, with the dragon constantly torturing Mahan. As the sun rose, the dragon finally threw Mahan to the ground and disappeared. Mahan, bewildered and weak, fell to the ground like a lifeless body. He remained unconscious on the ground until the sun reached the middle of the sky. When his head warmed up, he regained consciousness, rubbed his eyes, got up from the ground, looked around for an hour, and realized that the desert around him was infinite, a desert of red sand resembling blood and hot as hell. Mahan, who had suffered greatly the night before, quickly fled from that poisonous desert as if he were flying like smoke. He ran hastily to escape from that venomous land. As the dark night passed, he gradually saw that he had reached the end of the desert and saw a stream and green meadows on the horizon. Then his weary heart became young again. He drank from the stream, washed his body, and said to himself, "It is better that I do not stay here, as the climate of this region does not suit my temperament. It is better that I do not sleep here, so that I do not face nightmares in my wakefulness." So he set out, and along the way, whenever he saw a safe refuge, he would stop and rest until he reached a pit that had a deep well, 1,000 yards deep, where nothing reached the bottom except for a shadow. So he slowly made his way to the bottom of the well, and when he reached it, he said, "This is a safe place." Like a bird that builds a nest for itself, he lay down at the bottom of the well. After he woke up from his sleep, he saw a ray of light next to the well. So he moved towards it and gradually realized that moonlight was coming into the well through this opening. So he slowly widened the opening with his hands until it was as wide as his head and neck. He raised his head and saw a beautiful garden outside the hole. So he widened the hole even more, and in any way he could, he pulled himself out of that hole. He saw a garden like paradise. Thousands of cypresses and roses were blooming there, and fruits larger than natural hung from the branches of the trees. Eating those fruits gave fresh energy to Mahan. The air smelled of musk, and the color of the peaches was a ruby red. The pistachios seemed to be smiling at him from inside their shells, and bananas and dates were also within reach. The fig syrup and sweet almonds made his mouth water. The clusters of grapes were a sight to behold, and the juicy pomegranates, with their blood-red color, invited him to eat. Orange and lemon branches were everywhere in that garden. Watermelon plants had spread out on the ground as well. As Mahan enjoyed the delights of that paradise, he forgot about his previous hellish place and became busy eating delicious fruits. He ate some fruits and squeezed others in his hands to drink their juice, when suddenly a shout came from a corner of the garden. An old man was shouting, "Catch that thief!" The old man was carrying a wooden stick on his shoulder and shouted at Mahan, "You fruit thief! Why have you come to this garden at this late hour of the night? I have been taking care of this garden for years. Tell me, who are you to trespass in this garden?" When Mahan saw the anger of the old guardian of the garden, he fell to his knees and said to the old man, "I am a stranger and a wanderer, far from home, in a foreign land. Please be kind to a man like me, so that God may reward you." The old man, seeing the distress of Mahan, felt sorry for him and put down his walking stick, sat in front of him and said, "Now tell me the story of your distress and wandering, so that I can see what injustices the wrongdoers have done to you and what calamities the heartless have brought upon you." Mahan, seeing the old man listening to his words with compassion, then narrated his own fate to the old man and recounted the sufferings he had endured every night due to trusting a stranger, until he reached the point where he found the bright light of hope in that dark well and arrived at this beautiful garden. He then explained his story in detail and revealed all the secrets of his fate to the old man. The old man, who heard those words, amazed, stared at Mahan and said, "Now it is necessary to be grateful to God that you have been freed from all that oppression and hardship." Mahan said, "What was the land where I got trapped? There were thousands of demons around me, making me so tired and exhausted that my breath left my body. Now, I find myself here in this beautiful garden next to such a cheerful gardener. The old man replied, "The desert without water and grass that is around this garden is the place of demons. Those demons deceive people to drag them into that desert to break their bones. Their guidance to people, not from the path of kindness, but from the path of enmity. Demons are accustomed to this. Deceitful people are also among the demons of this horror. Sometimes they hide a lie with the truth. Sometimes they mix poison with honey. The fact that you were saved is all from the miracles of truth, and the fact that you got trapped in calamity is all because of your simplicity. Fear took hold of you and played with your mind, and if fear did not find its way into your heart, you would not have had the worry of getting lost, and your mind would not have been disturbed like this. Now that you have escaped from that giant's lair, it's as if you were born again from your mother's womb. This garden, which is like paradise in color, has been created with difficulty and is for me. Every tree bears fruit. Here, I have a house and a storehouse filled with wealth, but I have no children to bring joy to my heart. When I saw you with all your perfections and skills, I decided to treat you as my own child. I will transfer all that I own to you so that you can live happily in this garden. I will also find a beautiful girl for you to marry, and I will be delighted to see your happiness and contentment. If you agree to this arrangement, shake hands with me." Mahan replied, "This is very generous of you." Mahan then kissed the gardener's hand and they shook hands. The old man took Mahan's hand and lifted him off the ground, leading him towards a mansion with columns reaching up to the sky. The walls were all made of raw gold shining like silver. There was a large courtyard with tall trees and poplars in sight. At the top of a tall tree, there was a bed covered with a carpet. The old man said, "Rest on this bed. If you need water and food, the table is ready for you and a jug is hanging from the tree. I will go prepare the house for your arrival. Be patient until I return. Do not get off this bed, and do not be deceived by anyone to leave this place. You and I have made a sweet covenant, and this house and property belong to you. Tonight, be careful of the evil eye so you can have a peaceful night. Now, get up and throw the rope over the poplar tree, so you can climb up like a ladder and sit on the bed." The old man said this and left Mahan to prepare the house. Mahan threw the rope over the tall tree and sat on the tall bed. There, everything tall and elevated seemed low and small to him. The north wind caressed his face. Mahan opened the bread cloth, ate a little, and drank refreshing water from the cool pitcher. After that, he leaned back on the bed and looked around the garden. Suddenly, from a distance, he saw 17 bright candles in the hands of the young brides. Each of them had adorned themselves differently. The leader, who was the most beautiful of all, went and sat in a special place, and the others sat around her and began singing like birds. The melodies were so enchanting that all the birds came down and listened to their voices. The girls sang and danced. The north wind blew, lifting the girls' clothes, and Mahan was so enthralled by the beautiful melodies and the sight of the graceful girls that he longed to join them. But the old man's words came to mind. After all the tricks the girls played, they finally spread the table and brought food. Foods that could not even be found in heaven. A syrup of saffron and sugar, roasted Bulgarian lamb and fresh fish. All around the table had sweet pastries and cookies placed with melted butter. So the mistress of the girls said to one of the maids, "It seems that the familiar guest is sitting on top of the tree and craving to play. Go and tell that guest on top of the bed to come down and sit at our table and play with us. Tell him that this food table is spread out for you and no one will eat until you come." The young girl sent greetings to Mahan and invited him to the table. Mahan lost control and descended from the tree, following the young girl. All the excitement of youth did not allow him to remember the old man's advice. He set aside the love of shame and went to the party of the moon. When the mistress saw Mahan's face, she prostrated Mahan like a king and placed him in a special position. They poured wine and rose water, and following the customs of the party, they offered him a drink and each recited poems for the guest to entertain him. Then they brought a cup made of ruby and poured wine in it. When intoxication affected Mahan, he tore the veil of shame and embraced the moon-like lady. But the lady's face turned red with shame. So, when Mahan put his lips on the ruby-like lips of the lady and looked closely at her face in that state, he saw a demon whose entire body, from mouth to feet, was created in the wrath of the Lord, with teeth like a cow's and a terrifying dragon-like appearance, a demon with a hunched back, while the stench of her mouth was disturbing to the nostrils. The devil had a wide mouth, like a brick oven, and lips like a whale's mouth. The demon was kissing Mahan's head and face and saying, "Your head has fallen into my trap, and I will tear your body apart with my teeth." The demon's fangs and teeth were like swords and spears. The demon said, "These are the same lips that you were eager to kiss. This face is the same face that you longed to see. Now, do not close your eyes on me." The demon was still clinging to Mahan and kissing him lustfully. Mahan, feeling trapped, seemed to be caught by a tar-colored dragon and desperately needed help to escape from the demon. Until dawn came and the morning birds sang, and those terrifying illusions disappeared, and Mahan fell tired and exhausted at the palace door. Until the sun illuminated the earth and Mahan regained consciousness. So, Mahan opened his eyes and instead of seeing paradise last night, now he found himself in a hellish place. He blinked several times and saw that nothing remained of that magnificent building, and apparently all of that mansion had been imaginary. The garden had turned into a thorn field, and instead of all the cypresses, all the trees had turned into thorns, and instead of fruit, it was full of ants and animal bones. The ponds full of clear water had turned into muddy puddles. Mahan was left alone and constantly repented to God. He had no more feet to walk or hands to dig, and he said to himself, "What fate is this? Last night, I saw a wonderful garden, and today, I have such a hellish ruin in front of me. Instead of all the beautiful flowers, now thorns have grown. What result does this garden of life have? Whatever is in life, it is as if a mask on reality, and when the curtain falls, we become aware of the terrifying reality of what we were delighted with. Only fools can play with such transient and passing things like love." Mahan vowed that if he could escape from these terrifying haunted houses, he would repent and vowed to do good deeds for the rest of his life. So, with the help of God, he set out on his way while he was in a miserable and distressed state. He reached clear and pure water. He sat by the water and prostrated himself for worship and said, "O Lord, the opener of all things, untie the knot of my life and guide the lost me, for only you can open the closed fate of mine, and only you can show me the right path." So, for an hour, he begged God for forgiveness and help. When he raised his head from prostration, he saw a person standing beside him with a red face and wearing green clothes. Mahan asked, "Who are you?" The man said, "I am Kidda, the prophet of God, and I have come from him to help you. Because your intention was pure, God will return you to your home. So, give me your hands and close your eyes." When Mahan saw Kidda, he was like a thirsty man who had reached a stream. So, he closed his eyes and placed his hand in Kidda's hand. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back in the same guest house where he was first taken by the demon. Mahan entered the garden and saw that his friends were all dressed in blue mourning clothes. So he described to his friends everything that had happened to him from beginning to end. Then he realized that his friends were wearing the blue mourning clothes because of his absence. So he, like his friends, put on a blue outfit. Because blue is the color of the high sky. Whoever becomes the color of the sky, their luck shines brighter. Every morning when the sun shines, the blue lotus flower greets him. When the story reached this point, King Borom embraced the moon-faced princess with kindness and fell asleep.